Welcome to this Unitarian Universalist congregation. My name is Molly Hagan Ward, and I come to this church because being on earth is a lot. It's a lot to process. There's a lot to discover. There are ups and downs and beautiful things and challenging things. And having the UU Church helps me to navigate this time on earth and make the most of it. And it gives me a community to share it all with. What you bring, who you are, enriches us all. We say welcome to your joy, your hope, your pride. We say welcome to your grief, your fear, your anger, and the parts of you that are not yet ready to be seen and heard. Welcome to them as well. For we are a people of faith. Faith in our expansive welcome, faith in our ability to grow, faith in the precious gift of our truths, faith in the promise of trying, learning, changing, faith in our capacity to know ourselves and each other ever deeply. Welcome to you who are gay, straight, bi, pan, lesbian, queer, questioning, unable to be contained by any word. Welcome to you who are trans, cis, genderqueer, non-binary, intersex, agender, beyond words. Welcome to you who are human. Welcome to you who love and are loved. Welcome to you who are blessed, which is all of you. We encourage everyone to visit our website, brazos-uu.org, and our Facebook page to keep up with what's going on. Contact our administrator at admin@brazos-uu.org, which you'll see in the chat box now, to receive our monthly newsletter and our weekly e-cast. On the website, you can sign up to become a digital member of our community. If you're visiting with us today, or if you want to know what it means to be a member of this church, or if you're interested in joining, please contact our minister, Reverend Christian Schmidt, by email at minister@brazos-uu.org, which you will see in the chat box now. Gaye Webb, president of our congregation, is our service leader today, and her topic today is titled Past, Present, and Future.
The call to worship this morning was written by Ian Rydell, and it is called Come, Come, Whoever You Are. Do you hear that voice calling you, calling us? That voice which calls us together here today in this Zoom room, made holy by our presence and by the sacred breath we share in our singing, speaking, and silence. The voice which calls us to remember that we are not alone and that we are linked to all other life, woven into a vast tapestry of existence of which we are a powerful, integral, and holy part. And just as we have been called together here today, we act as the voice, the heart, the hands of another call. The call to walk with wanderers, sing and dance with worshipers, proclaim the memory of those who have taken their leave, wrap the despairing and the broken in arms of love and community, and hold the hands of all of us who have broken our vows and are called us back again and again to the covenant and the work of justice, humility, and steadfast faithfulness. For this, we are here together today. So come, yet again come, let us worship together.
I invite you to light your own chalice, if you have one, with me as I light our chalice today. Please say our chalice lighting words with me.
Today,
we light this chalice in the spirit of play. Let us trust the light to guide us in this hour and in the days to come, finding joy along the way.
Southeast Louisiana, southern Mississippi, or southern Alabama.
And now, join us in our affirmation. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its gift. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Our story today is Amira's Porpoise by Chrissy Bruchhager, and Molly Ward and her son Eli will tell us the story.
Amira's Porpoise by Chrissy Bushjager. Today, I'm going to tell you a story about a girl who was searching for a porpoise. Now, as you probably know, a porpoise is a sea mammal in the dolphin family. Porpoises are smaller and shyer than dolphins. They're more difficult to find, but porpoises are very important.
The topic for today is about finding purpose, not porpoise.
Purpose?
Yes.
So not porpoises?
No.
Well, do you mind if I tell my porpoise story anyway? It's the only story I have ready this morning.
Well, sure, I guess we'll give it a try.
Okay. So, there once was a girl named Amira, and all she wanted for her birthday was a porpoise of her very own. She wished and hoped and dreamed of a porpoise. She asked her parents and her grandparents. She told all her friends at school that she was getting a porpoise for her birthday. But her birthday came and went, and she did not get a porpoise. She was disappointed, and she wanted answers. So she asked her parents, and they said,
"Oh, Mira, we couldn't get you a porpoise. That is something you need to seek out for yourself."
Amira looked at her parents kind of funny and said, "You know I said porpoise, right? Like the sea mammal that's smaller than a dolphin?" And her parents looked at each other and said,
"Oops. But you can't have a wild animal for your birthday anyway."
She asked her grandparents, and they said,
"Oh, Mira, we can't get you a purpose. You'll have to figure out your purpose when you're older, and sometimes even adults don't know their own purpose."
At this point, Amira was getting a little annoyed. "I said porpoise. Porpoise, the sea mammal, like a small dolphin." Her grandparents said,
"Oh, sorry. We misheard you. But we wouldn't have bought you a porpoise anyway. They belong in the wild, dear."
Amira was fuming. Why had no one understood her when she wanted a porpoise? And now that she thought about it, why were the adults unwilling to give her a purpose either? What was a purpose anyway? So, Amira set about finding a purpose. Over the next several years, she asked a lot of adults that she knew and trusted. Some of the adults said,
"I don't know. That's a really hard thing to explain."
but some of the adults gave her some good advice. They said, pay attention to the things you care about and how you can use those to make a difference in the world. You may not have a clear idea about it yet, and your purpose will certainly change over time. But if you think about the things you value and how you can use those things for good, you'll be on the right track. So, Amira thought about the things that she valued and cared for, things like animals and the habitats they live in. She thought about the things she liked to do, things like learning new things and teaching those things to younger children. She thought about her heroes, people who were living their lives in ways that she wanted to copy. And she thought about what was possible and ways that she could change the world when she was older. And eventually, after some time and some work, Amira came up with her purpose. And the funny thing is that Amira's purpose didn't stray too far from porpoises. She decided that her purpose was to be a caring advocate for the earth and teach others about conservation. And that's just what she did. This church shares the proceeds of the offering plate donation every week to support important nonprofit organizations with which we work. We're proud to support UU the Vote for September and October. Many of us are working on this grassroots effort to engage and inform voters who need to reclaim their voting power. The offering that we take each Sunday isn't just a stale habit. It's an opportunity to recommit to this place and to these people. Our offering is an affirmation, a yes. And when we give, we say yes to something we value. With our gifts freely given, may we say yes to the values of our faith. May our offering help us practice Unitarian Universalism within and beyond our congregation as tools to empower our mission. With open hearts, open arms, and open minds, we make meaning, make connections, and make a difference. To make your offering, mail your check or donate online. On our homepage at brazos-uu.org, you can find our mailing address at the bottom, and at the top, it's very easy to see the Donate Here tab and click to see donation options. And it's actually very easy and makes it kind of a pleasurable thing to stay connected and be able to give that affirmation each Sunday, even though we're not together physically. So we give thanks for these gifts we have given, for those we receive, and for each other.
As we enter into this time of silence, meditation, and prayer, we take the time to express our joy, sorrows, so that as a community, we may hold them in our hearts as we seek meaning for the suffering and even the happiness that we embrace. And in this sharing, we open our arms, though virtually, to hold those in our faith community in and outside of this gathering, close to us as we try to imagine what challenges we each face and what successes we each enjoy. It is through these embraces that we make connections. By listening to each other's stories with an open mind and without judgment or pity, perhaps we can make a small difference in the lives of those in which we share our spiritual journey. Thus, it is with open hearts, open arms, and open minds, we do make meaning, make connections, and make a difference. In the spirit of meditation and prayer, breathe in and breathe out. As we listen to Elizabeth Norton bless the world, with our minds and our hearts and our hands, may we choose to bless the world.
With our minds and our hearts and our hands, may we choose to bless the world. With our minds and our hearts and our hands, may we choose to bless the world. With our minds and our hearts and our hands, may we choose to bless the world. With our minds and our hearts and our hands, may we choose to bless the world.
Have not already done so, feel free to enter any joys or sorrows or concerns that you might have in the chat box so that we may hold them in our hearts. And we will also hold those unspoken words in our hearts. We think of those affected by the recent hurricanes and by the nearly 100 forest fires in several states, as we remember that climate change is worsening both in frequency and damage. Often among those of us with least resources are the most affected. Let us also lift up those who are suffering from COVID-19, parents, grandparents, family members, those who have their concerns about their children's safety as we start back to school, and to all the essential workers that are on the front line that present themselves daily, possibly into harm. And let us remember that Black lives really do matter as we strive for justice, equity, and anti-racism. As Molly mentioned, the title of the service today is Past, Present, and Future. And that is in light of our own congregation. I'm not going to give you a history lesson because I don't really like history, but I was fascinated when I started looking at the history of this congregation. So some of this, some of you may know, and others may not. And hopefully we'll have a chance to discuss history further in the next several months, and even next week when Reverend Christian presents his sermon. But one day in 1956, our church was born when a few Unitarians moved to College Station and found each other and decided they needed a place of fellowship here, Unitarian fellowship. Now, this was before the merger of Unitarian and Universalism. And so it was a Unitarian group of folks who started our fellowship. And then it was the 200th fellowship of the American Unitarian Association. And so that is something we hit a milestone with these organizers back in 1956. But we were just a baby, and we were thrusted deep into the human condition, tasked to hold our minds and our souls, our bodies and our hearts along the many, many changes in the world. We immediately started to make a difference. And throughout the years, we have done such things as hosting Madeline O'Hara, who spoke of atheism in our congregation. It was after we bought our new building on Welburn. And one of our church members created, and the church hosted, a memorial service for Martin Luther King Jr. and invited the entire community to come mourn with us. Provided the first integrated nursery school and kindergarten, holding a moratorium against the Vietnam War, inviting the community to a standing room only coffee house with the Ollie Ivans, providing a meeting place for Brazos Valley, Civil Liberties Union, and for GLPT students at A&M when the university failed to or would not let them meet on campus. And we have been supporting organizations like Planned Parenthood, Habitat for Humanity, the prenatal clinic, local food pantries, Twin City Missions, Phoebe's Home, the African American Museum, the NAACP, and more recently, the UU Justice Ministry Organization, Family Promise, Hope's Locker, Brazos Interfaith Immigration Network, and providing relief for different national disasters. For the first few years, we had no minister while members met in homes at the YMCA building on campus, and at one time even at the Hillel Jewish Center. And history repeated itself recently when we, again, were having our services and housing our offices at the Hillel Jewish Center. Occasionally, we had extension ministers from Houston and Austin and San Antonio come and help us out 1 or 2 Sundays a month. And we had quarter-time and half-time ministers every several years. And then in 1996, 40 years after our congregation began, our half-time minister went to full-time. And since 1996, we have had full-time ministers. Some of those have been contract, transition ministers, development ministers, interim, and even settled ministers. And settled ministers are when we as a congregation vote on who our professional leadership will be. And we had trying times in those years. In the mid-1970s, after we had bought the building in 1964, the church actually split over a minister that was hired in secret without knowledge of the board, and until after the deed was done and the agreement was made. But that didn't work out too well. He was fired within a year. And then when we tried to buy that building in 1964, our annual budget at the time was just under $900 for the whole year. And we just didn't feel that we could afford it. And so the board and the congregation met and they sent around pledge cards and say, okay, let's have a capital campaign here and now. Let's see if we can raise the money. What they needed was a commitment to pay $30,000 over a few years for the mortgage. And the value of the property at that time was like $65,000. So it was really a good deal. And so they passed around the cards and tallied them up and said, whoops, we're short, we can't buy it. And they said, well, let's try this again. So they put it around again. And finally they came up and was able to quadruple their budget so that they could pay that mortgage off in a few years. And then more than once, we've had ministers that didn't meet our expectations, and some were cherished by others, and others just thought they weren't doing a good job. And that created tension and uncertainty about our future. And then this last thing, one of the last things is when we were forced to move out of our property, and now we're homeless. So we've got some challenges even still. But we have celebrated the good times and made it through the tough times. Why? Because we want to be our best selves, and Unitarian Universalism calls us to do that. We have held each other's hands. We have broken our vows, and we have called back again and again to the covenant of the work of justice, humility, and steadfast faithfulness. The history of our church is more a story of the determination of love to break forth than it is about the everyday happenings. The history of our church is a history of human enterprise, evolving in its spirits and sounds, yet revolving always around its core values and its principles. The history of our church is the gift of potential and momentum of baggage and personality. The history of our church is a launch pad from which we spring into action or disarray. It is our choice. And now we find ourselves trying to cope with the national and global challenges, hurricanes and fires caused by climate change, an administration that chooses to divide rather than unite, police brutality becoming more visible through technology, leading to protest and sometimes rioting in an attempt to get attention to those in power and shout that Black lives matter. A pandemic that has taken almost 200,000 lives in the United States alone, and that challenges the livelihood for many of us. In less than 2 months to our national election, which brings its own challenges regarding mail-in voting, live voting during COVID, and not to mention our local challenges here at our local congregation. We are in transition, temporarily homeless while we design and build our new building, and with another temporary minister while we do the hard work to prepare for a more permanent one. At the end of last month, about 20 of us participated in a workshop facilitated by the UUA Southern Region staff identifying our immediate and long-term needs and what we hoped we could accomplish in the short term, the next couple of years, under the leadership of the board and our interim minister. We set goals and priorities and expectations of the congregation, the board, and the minister. And my recent blog for our website, So What's This Interim Ministry All About?, gives some insight into what lies in store for us. And on the first Sunday of October, the board will host a town hall meeting where we shall share more details on our plans and for this interim minister, as well as an update on the building construction. So what will our future look like? Well, the answer will come from you, from all of us. In a few weeks, we will undertake a process to reaffirm our vision and mission or create new ones, and we will recovenant with one another as we embark on our new journey. But today we'll take a first step to get our creative juices flowing. You will be invited to tell us what you need, what you are receiving now that you need in our congregation, and what needs are not being met. So I'm going to share a screen with you about the questions that I want you guys to consider. Number 1, practice what we preach, community outreach. Number 4, number 3, people who are non-judgmental, caring people. One group said that nothing was missing except that we can't meet together and we're trying to do the best we can. Number 1, sense of community and the principles that help us to be better for our communities, social justice, taking care of one another, valuing one another. Number 1, we talked about the diversity of belief and the acceptance of all people. Number 4, we talked about age-appropriate classes and programs, especially for youth and young adults. We would like some fun, happy, as well as serious aspects during the Sunday service. Number 4, more participation from congregation, more outreach to the community. Number 1, I was born into the right religion. Number 4, to be truly inclusive and welcoming. I would like to be part of a church where all political parties and beliefs feel honored and respected. Liberal people, no creed, freedom of belief, social justice. This is the only liberal religious community in Bryan College Station. Everyone comes from different backgrounds, different places, following different paths. We're all accepting all. Missing that feeling of community due to the distance between us, feeling distance from our minister, just knowing he's not here should we decide to do community participation utilizing masks. Our principles, social justice, leadership as spiritual practice, open doors for everyone, caring and bonding. Like Kathy, I was born into a Unitarian faith. So keep those comments going. We'll have them saved after the service so that we have them for future reference. So now for our closing hymn, and then we'll extinguish the chalice and have a benediction.
When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind. And we see our faces in each other's eyes, and our hearts in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell our story from deep inside, and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, oh yeah, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we share the silence of sacred space, and the God of our hearts stirs within, and we feel the power of each other's faith, and our heart is in a holy place, and our heart is in a holy place, and our heart is in a holy place.
Now, please join me in extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we gather together again. What?
And the benediction today is Fitted for the Day by Kimberly Quinn Johnson. We are the ones we have been waiting for. We are not perfect, but we are perfectly fitted for this day. We are not without fault, but we can be honest, face our past as we chart a new future. We are the ones that we have been waiting for. May we be bold and courageous to chart that new future. May we have faith in a future that is not known. We are the ones we have been waiting for. Blessed be.